Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Today we are reacting to another League of Legends video by Necrit. It's called Legendary Loot of Riots MMO According to the Lore. It was recommended that I watch this, so let's go. I think everything's good.
Videos, Riot MMO, Riot MMO videos, multiplayer Riot MMO, Riot MMO, Riot MMO.
Are you going crazy yet, dude?
MMO. Loot, arguably one of the driving forces of MMOs, and it doesn't matter if it is an MMORPG or an MMO shooter. Loot is something everyone celebrates their
makes
joy
them
over,
drive
but it
to
might
play
be
the
for
game.
two separate reasons. Some people like having big numbers on their characters. Sure, it is a key progression for MMOs, but for a lot of others, me strongly included, it's all about the visuals.
Yes.
I simply want to show off the achievements of my character, so after I get some good loot, it better
It's bragging rights.
good. In fact, that's exactly what my MMO journeys have been about. I care about the appearance of my character
A lot.
Classic
Yes.
Wrath being a perfect example.
And there's also there's a few games that I played similar to Diablo, but the loot looked so bad that I couldn't really get into it because it made my character look so silly. Yeah, so loot matters a lot, and the looks of loot matters a lot in games like this. To me, anyway.
Burning Crusade, I have always played
Your
artist.
character needs to
So
look cool.
With Classic, I got one to max
At higher
level
levels,
on my
at
own
least.
EU server. But Blizzard also brought up the fresh servers, where everyone would start as level 1 and everyone would be on a leveled playing field as the next expansion comes out. This is something a lot of people didn't believe would be that popular. Until it was so popular, it was burning Blizzard spaghetti servers. See, people thought Blizzard was only releasing awful games these days, but not only did they release one amazing queue simulator, but they released two.
Okay.
Well, I quickly realized there was no way I was gonna play on a fresh server. Right? Well, it turns out prime time for EU is when US is asleep. So I bypassed the queues by making a character on the US servers, and my leveling was a breeze. And here's the reason why I'm even telling you about this.
Yeah.
When I was deciding which class I wanted to play, I thought about which class would be played the least so that my loot would not be contested. Well, in Wrath, it would be the Shaman. But if I wanted to play a Shaman as the Alliance, I would have to play as the Draenei. Visuals matter to me. I can't play a character that looks awkward. But thankfully, in Riot's universe, the armor and weapons are badass. We already had a look at the world of Runeterra. We also talked about all the existing races in this universe.
Yes.
I showed you the greatest villains and bosses we will inevitably get to see. And now it's time to show you the final piece. The epic loot revealed by the lore of this universe. And oh boy, be ready for some glorious items. This video will be split into two halves. The first half of the video will talk about all the armories of all the different regions, and I'll show you what their typical armor looks like. With the second half of the video being the juicy one, because I'll show you some legendary weapons from this universe, but I will also show you some real 3D models of the weapons which I pulled from the Ruined King game. So we'll be able to have a look at some real models that tease what we could see in the MMO. But first, let's go region by region and let's have a look at the typical armories.
Okay.
So let's
see which one I like the
good,
most.
Totally not racist boys of Demacia. With
Demacia?
Demacia having the classic white castles and knights in shiny armor. That's exactly what we should expect here.
Kinda boring.
Besides the rugged appearance at low levels, which we should expect everywhere,
Yeah.
the armor of the Dauntless Vanguard is just about the most iconic here. Being made of petrified steel, it is naturally pale and resilient to magic. At the lower ranks, it is a wall of silver steel. But at the higher ranks, their armor has some golden outlines. Their sergeants also have different helmets that stand out, and depending on what your
it looks okay.
is, the armor has totally different variants. There is one for the horse riders, there is also a lighter version for the trekkers, there is also a version for the raptor riders. This one also has a cool elite variant, And you can see it in greater detail in the official concept art. So
That's
if you're a
cool.
lover of shiny armor,
Not
you're
really.
going to
No.
appreciate these. Even their cloth armor is just
That
like a
one's cool
version
though.
of plate. That
Yeah.
shows you how much Demacians loved armor.
I like
I
that look
mean, they
better.
even armor up their hawks. But Demacia also has the classic
There's a
scout
train
hiding
outside.
in bushes. So they also have the classic ranger outfit. They also have the swift-footed duelist
That one's
with
cool. I like
light
that
armor.
outfit.
And of course, then we have the mage seekers.
Mm.
As we mentioned in the last videos, these are the guys hunting down mages. The most iconic part of their gear are the half masks. That's what indicates that you belong into their crappy cult. But all of them also wear long blue coats and a trinket called the Grey Mark. This piece of petrified stone absorbs magic, which comes in handy whenever you are trying to uncover a hidden mage. While some mage seekers have fancier masks than others, we really should mention the shittiest person in all of Demacia, the leader of the mage seekers, Lord Eldred. Who not
Eldred.
only
I
has
don't
the
think I've heard of
fanciest
him
mask
before.
of them all, but he feels so insecure about himself that he carries 2 grey marks. But the mage seekers are not the only ones with unique outfits. Near the mountains where
Oh,
we
these
can
are cool.
find dragons, the local Demacian armor is resilient not only to magic, but also fire. That's why their variant of the armor is red. And it is simply called the Dragon Guard armor.
Dragon
But all
Guard.
of these just lead us to the armor of the highest value in all of Demacia. The armor of the Royal Court, and currently we know about its 3 iterations. This armor is fully golden, unlike the typical silver Demacian variants. One type of this armor is worn by Barret Bevel, one of the
Barret
greatest
Bevel.
Demacians who ever lived. His story is awesome, but unfortunately it's not really important for this video. What is important is that Barret was the greatest Demacian. He died during the battle at the Gates
So
of
he's
Morning
dead, so his
while
armor
protecting
can
his nation.
be there
As
somewhere.
a result, during his burial ceremony, his armor was reforged into a container for his ashes. So the golden armor was turned into this.
So sad.
I don't think we're gonna wear that in the MMO.
Yeah.
The second variant of the Golden Royal armor is worn by Jarvan IV. This combat armor is passed between the leaders of Demacia. Here you can even see it being worn by his own father. And you can see that it was forged in the image of the dragons that once threatened the lands of Demacia.
It's very cool
I highly
looking.
doubt it would be lootable because Jarvan is not an evil man and he is actively wearing it. But I still wanted to mention it because it looks cool and
Yeah.
it could definitely inspire another Demacian set.
Yeah,
And
something
then
similar.
there is the third variation, the armor of his now dead father, King Jarvan III. This is probably the heaviest armor in
Yeah,
all
it
of
looks
Demacia.
not that
I
cool.
really love this image because here Jarvan looks like a space marine from Warhammer. But at least it shows you that Demacia is not only all about silver. They also have gold. Fun fact, the Crown Guard family is wearing a special variation of the armor which has comically large shoulder pads.
Why?
Garen is part of this family, that's why he looks the way he does. When it comes to the weapons, there is not much to add here. Demacian weapons are minimalistic and shiny. So let's move on to Noxus.
Not very
Noxus
pretty.
has the exact opposite of Demacia. Instead of bright and shiny, they are dark and bloody. If you like big plated armor that is not shiny, you're gonna like these guys quite a bit more. Here, the vast majority of the armor comes from the Trifarian Legion.
They look a little
It
bit
is
more
dark
evil
with
than
a
the
lot
other
of
ones.
hard edges and occasional silver lining. You can also notice that oftentimes this armor does not have sleeves, because Noxians are overly aggressive and they don't want to limit their offense. But not all of them. For example,
Ooh,
Captain
look at
Farron
that.
has a type of armor that
That's
doesn't
terrifying.
give a damn about anyone. And yes, without spoiling anything, during Arcane, if you look into the background, you may find even more Noxian armor. But then there is also this interesting variant that is fully plated with a winged helm. This one looks different because it is actually an ancient Noxian who was brought back using blood magic. So perhaps we will be able to get something like this in the tombs beneath Noxus.
That would be cool.
Now, when it comes to light armor and cloth, Noxian spies often use leather with occasional plate
Yeah, that's
armor.
not bad.
This is also used on the battlefields by those who are confident they don't need to use heavy plating to protect themselves. But really, it is the casters who are going to get the most style out of Noxus.
Yes,
The
that's just.
Noxian cult of Hemomancers use the
Those
black
are
jacket
cool.
with the crimson cloaks that look amazing. The Black Rose may swap the jackets for more plating because, well, it's Noxus, with the Noxian officials sometimes ditching the crimson cloak entirely for a full Black Imperial look. So even as a caster, even if you are not going to be wearing plated armor, you are still going to appreciate Noxus. When it comes to their weapons,
Pretty cool
well,
looking.
Noxus does have massive weapons of dark steel,
Axes.
which often match the Noxian architecture
You know, it looks
with
pretty
the
cool.
hard
I like
edges.
that. Big
But
variety of
Noxians
them.
also have a special kind of a weapon, the runed weapons.
Ooh.
Noxian rune weavers are able to weave runes into their blades to enhance them. Sometimes these runes make the blades lighter so that you can one-hand a blade that is bigger than yourselves. And other times the runes simply make the weapons indestructible. So just know that League does have a canonical reason for you to be wielding oversized weapons.
Okay.
Noxians also have suicidal bombs. I'm not sure if that's gonna lead into fun gameplay. So now let's move into the Freljord. Here we all know what to expect. Either you are wearing a lot of fur,
These are cute.
or you wear nothing. This entire region is pretty much made of leather armor, but at least it comes in different
Fuzzy
styles.
too.
The Avarosen
Like
start with
lots
the
of
blue cloaks
fuzziness,
with the white fox fur
which is
element.
very
The
cool.
Winter's Claws stay closer to the brown element,
Very
but
awesome
at
looking.
least the Shamans of the Freljord
Very
give
cool
it a
looking.
twist. They theme their armor after animals. Be it a mammoth with massive tusks on his shoulders, a wolf with the amazing wolf shoulder pads, or even an elk wearing their bones.
So much, yeah.
With that said, some individuals, usually those of a higher rank, wear actual metal armor. But because it's difficult to harvest metal in all the frozen landscape, and because metal tends to be freezing
So
cold
far,
in
this one looks
climate,
the best.
it is
This
rare to see people
region.
wearing it. However, up in deep north, Lysandra's army of the
Lysandra.
Draculon are clad in metal plates. Just like Lysandra, they are wearing helmets shaped in the image of the Watchers, which they are holding back. But even they are not going to be the most iconic armor of the Freljord. I can almost guarantee you that Riot's MMO will have a set themed after the Hearthblood.
No, I thought it was fuzzy.
Are the people who worship the demigod Ornn.
Oh yeah, it is fuzzy.
Ornn being a godly blacksmith. This demigod is the one who crafted the massive vault door which Braum is using as his shield.
That's so
and
cool.
all you need to do is to peek into Ornn's forge to get an idea of what the armor is going to look like. A lot of ram thematics with aspects of a volcano. In fact, in the Ruined King game, you can find what a hypothetical shield made by Ornn would look like. Ornn is simply far too iconic for this region, so expect at least one Fire Ram based set.
Yeah.
But here I also very quickly want to add one more thing. Even though these people are rarely talked about, the Freljord also has its own scavengers. And it's a shame that these are rarely mentioned because their armor looks insane.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the weapons, Freljordians have very barbaric tools. Loads of axes, swords and wooden shields.
Simple stuff.
With an occasional primitive weapon from one of the trolls. Nothing too out of the ordinary. However, the Freljord is also known for the true ice weapons. We talked about these in the past. These weapons are made out of magical ice.
But you can
that
only be
literally kills
certain
you
people can
if you
only
touch
hold it and use it,
That
right?
is, unless you are an iceborn, in which case it will still hurt you a lot. And these true ice weapons can have all sorts of shapes and sizes, from swords and axes to bows and flails. But that's it for the Freljord.
How would they
Now
put that
let's have a
into
look
the
at
game though?
Ionia.
It'd be a cool
Ionia
weapon
has
idea.
a lot of clean design. Most people are
Ninjas.
wearing simple robes, and depending on what class you are playing, the robes can vary heavily. The Blade Dancers following Irelia wear slightly reinforced robes. They also wear these reinforced hats, which can be used as shields when banding together. Yes, this is not an insect, these are Blade Dancers. The
What?
field musicians
Oh.
also wear some really cool caster armor, but this is definitely not gonna be the coolest light armor here, because that one is gonna go to the Kashuri Armory.
Whoa. What the heck are
Here, the
you?
one simply known as the Maker is making legendary weapons and equipment,
This is the first time
which
hearing of that one.
certainly does have a unique style. And yes, the very popular League of Legends champion Jhin is also wearing a set made by the Maker.
The Maker.
Then, of course, we can't forget about the Blade Masters.
Mm-hmm.
The Blade Masters of Ionia are known for their very wonky shoulder pads. You can see one on Yasuo, you can see two of them on his brother Yone, and even Master Yi in his fully golden armor couldn't afford to not have at least slightly wonky shoulder pad. Speaking of which, all the Vuju Blade Masters wear helmets with the green lenses. These allow them to see what is happening in the spirit realm, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of these weird helmets was obtainable in the game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, it is quite iconic. But don't worry, we can find some heavy armor even here. While normally the Ionian ninjas are wearing light armor, Shen and Zed are two types of fully armored ninjas, with Shen wearing the classic Kinku blue colors and Zed wearing the red colors of the Shadow Order. But even that is not it. We also can't forget about the Temple Guards, which might be wearing the most badass armor in Ionia.
Yeah, it looks really
and when
cool.
it comes to the weapons of Ionia, it is all blades and sharp objects that resemble living things. Next up, let's delve into Piltover and Zone. This will be a quick one because we can't get closer to just real life. Anything from the 20s to 60s is in fashion here, at least when it comes to the light armor. But even that has a cool twist here. Because Piltover and Zone are based on technology, sometimes you can find some really great examples of proper tech wear. With the Pharaoh's family being the best example. Here they are wearing a straight up Tesla suit. And here, one of the leaders of the Pharaoh's family has a very
it kind of looks
where you can see all the
lame.
hard labor on their shoulder
In my opinion,
pads.
sorry.
This is definitely
It's
one of the
not
more
something I want to
unique
run
armor
around
sets
in MMO with.
And of course, in Zone, all of this gear is
That
gonna
looks
be
cool.
slightly more grungy, or at times horrifying. But the fun will probably begin when we start looking into the augments. Because augments are not only for the fanatics, they can also be worn fashionably. And I can't wait to see all the different augmented
That one's cute.
When it comes to the heavy armor, don't look into the forges, I'll tell you that much. But really, all the heavy armor goes to the wardens.
Yeah.
The heavily armored police force of the city. However, some of the Barons of Zone may be teasing some heavy armor as well. When it comes to the weapons of Piltover and Zone, well, it's anything that can be engineered. So probably primitive guns, explosives, and hidden knives. From here, we're going to Shurima. Shurima is going to be very simple too. Either you are from the desert, or you're from the capital, or you are from Ikathia. In the desert, you can find a lot of primitive technology, so don't expect much there. Although some of the raiders' gear can be appealing at times, but from the civilized areas. The Chronomancers show us a good bit of what caster armor from Shurima could look like. We can also find more caster's armor on Xerath's acolytes, but even more in the capital city itself. In fact, I can show you quite a few good examples. Shurima really likes to wear cloth after all, though some rogues may prefer some of these leather sets. But when it comes to something heavier, Shurima's golden army comes to the rescue. They are big fans of gleaming golden armor, though they are not as heavily armored as someone like Demacia. We could also mention that even though Ikathia was utterly destroyed by the Void, their kingdom used to have soldiers that look like this. So should
that
we
looks
ever
pretty
delve
cool
into some
too.
of the tombs in Shurima, maybe we can find something like this. And yes, this is also the type of armor that Jax is wearing. Now, when it comes to their weapons, it is golden spears all around.
Spears, that's what I figured.
An occasional scimitar. However, some people are using the Void as a weapon against itself. So that's where we get these. I wouldn't be surprised if Riot really gave us one of these weapons, but it would have to be endgame. I
Yeah,
really love the
something
concept
really
of
hard
this
to
kind of
get.
a weapon, and let's be
It would be
honest,
really
a
cool
full
though.
set of void corrupted weapons sounds like really great raid loot.
Mm-hmm.
Next, let's very quickly mention Targon. Most Targonians don't wear
Spears.
much, but when they decide to wear something, it is usually in the image of their religion. The Solari are clad in more of a golden armor, since it is themed after the sun. They are
Okay.
also very defensive people, so they also use giant shields. With the most iconic soldier of them all, probably being Leona, but I prefer the Daylight Spear, Ravoon. And
Abu.
obviously, just like their armor, their weapons are also themed after the
It's
sun.
really
In
pretty
fact, you can
looking.
see the weapons being forged here by the Sun Forger. The Lunari, on the other hand, wear more of a lighter armor. Here we can get good examples
They
of
look
caster's gear.
awesome.
And here you can see something more of a rogue
Mm.
set, with Diana herself wearing just about the heaviest armor the Lunari can offer. It's not much, but it's an
It's
honest
very
one.
cool looking, yeah.
When it comes to their
Okay.
weapons, it is curved blades.
I
Because
like
you
those
know they
types
resemble
of
the moon.
blades.
And in some rare cases, the Lunari can also summon celestial weapons from the cosmic
Mm.
realms.
That'd
So
be
when it
cool.
comes to the end game, I wouldn't be surprised if the Celestials gave us one of these weapons. Yes,
Wow.
these are actual canon
Mm.
celestial weapons.
That's cool
And they
looking
are
too.
all guns. But
Oh,
besides
guns?
these, if you'd
Really?
like
I
to see
thought
some
one was a
more
blade at
iconic
least.
sets, we have the Warriors of Rakor, who resemble the classic Spartans. The Herald of the Dragons is wearing a very interesting mask. The Goat people have their own gear. But most importantly, we better get an armor set themed after the celestial aspects. These creatures are just
Wow.
so dang cool. Next up, we should also
Scary
mention
looking.
Bilgewater. For the most part,
Bilgewater
this is
pirates.
just pirates.
Yeah.
Guns, cutlasses, corsair clothing.
Cool
And
hats.
besides the normal pirate wear,
Eye
we can
patch.
also mention the religious Buru worshipping the god of motion Nagake Boros. Their entire
Nagake
aesthetics are
Boros.
themed on Aztec stone. At least that's when it comes to the heavier armor. If you'd like to see some caster's armor, be ready for tentacles.
Tentacles.
Loads and loads of tentacles. But I'll tell you one thing, I really want to see an armor set themed after Nautilus. Can you tell I
Wow.
like plate armor? Anyway, let's finish this first half of the video with the last place. The Shadow Isles. Obviously, before the Shadow Isles were the Shadow Isles, they were the Blessed Isles.
Yeah.
That's where most of the design will come from. Of course, we know that the Sentinels originated on the Blessed Isles. So all of these light pale sets come from here. Also, before we get into the darker stuff, I can show you all of these guys who show us some uncorrupted light sets.
I
But
can
then
see
things
people
get
running
bad.
around looking like that
This
in the
place has
game.
a lot of interesting light armor, with my favorite being the set of the Rekindler. There is something so simple and yet so cool about this one.
Yeah.
I also really want to see a set themed after one of the spirits of death.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a great one for casters. But then of course there
yeah.
were a lot of people who came here to vanquish the dead. And eventually they would be claimed by the undead as well, and that's where we can get these cool sets from. But also, the Shadow Isles are riddled by the soldiers of Kamavor who once raided this place. Some of them were armor themed after the dragons of Kamavor, but others come from the Iron Order wearing dark skeletal sets.
Very cool looking.
But that's really it when it comes to the kinds of armors that come from this
Okay.
universe. Of course, I could keep going, but there is only so much time we have for a video. So
Anyway,
now,
you're gonna
let's
look
get
cool
into
in the game.
far more interesting part. And let's talk about some very specific
Yodos.
items which we will see in Riot's MMO. Whether we'll be able to loot them or not is a whole separate conundrum. For example, in the past,
Oh.
Blizzard knew that
I like that one.
Frostmourne was so legendary they couldn't just give it to players and let them run around with it. Not when the lore dictated that there could only ever be one Lich King. So when the players finally defeated the Lich King, Blizzard didn't give them Frostmourne, but they gave them a weaker version of it called Shadowmourne. But then 10 years later, everyone was able to run around with the shards of the Frostmourne, so I don't know what the logic was. Anyway, the point is, I am going to show you items that canonically exist in this universe. There are no buts or ifs, these legendary items exist in the game.
Okay.
And to make things even more interesting, first I'll cover all the legendary items which we are unlikely to get, though Riot may still give them to us for the sake of it being cool, and then we'll get into some proper loot. So first, let's mention Drakebane. This
Drake
legendary weapon
Bane.
of the Demacian
Yeah, it
kings
looks
was
okay.
designed to slay drakes. It is a hybrid between a spear and a sword that can extend itself. The art of fighting with it is only really known to the Lightshield dynasty. And when wielded in combat, the weapon is just as dangerous to its wielder as it is to the enemy. And Jarvan only ever pulls it out when things really get serious. I doubt we will ever be able to get this legendary spear, but we are most likely going to see it in action in the MMO. Also in the category
Okay.
of legendary, likely unobtainable weapons, we have the legendary gloves of Nezuk.
That's
Long
cool.
story short, a very long time ago there used to be an ascended warrior who was trying to figure out how to defeat the void monsters. His name was Horok. Over time
Horak.
he figured out that
Horak.
he can use the void against itself, and so he infused his glove with voidy energy. This created a weapon known as the Netherblade of Horok. A
That
magical
looks
blade that was
cool.
mounted to his wrist which could cut through just about anything. Years later, Horok died, and many centuries after that, his tomb was looted by the champion known as Kassadin. As you can
Kassadin.
see, this is what the Netherblade looks like. However, many years before Kassadin picked up the Netherblade of Horok, there was another ascended called Nezuk who raided the tomb as well, and he stole the other glove. Eventually Nezuk died too, and Nezuk's tomb was raided by Ezreal. So
Jeez.
Ezreal and Kassadin are each wielding a glove, which make a complete set, and together they are wielding power which even they probably don't comprehend. But because both of these champions are good guys, I doubt we are going to be able to steal their gloves.
Yeah.
And this is where we can also mention the Hammer of Orlon. This one is very crucial for the story arc of Poppy. Poppy is on a quest to find the rightful owner of the Hammer of Orlon. Someone who could fully unlock the hammer's potential, without knowing the fact that she herself is the rightful owner of the hammer. And that what she can do with the hammer is not normal at all. So the moment you take the hammer away from her, you destroy a beloved character.
Yeah, you're
That's
not
why
gonna
I
be doing
don't
that.
believe we will
You'll
be
probably
able
be in
to
the
get the
game.
Hammer of Orlon. Lastly, we could also mention the weapons of the aspects, like the Zenith Blade. It's simple. I don't believe Riot is going to allow us to fight a decently friendly fan-favorite champion such as Leona. So we are likely not getting that blade.
That's
I
fine.
could keep going, nearly half of the champions in League of Legends are holding interesting weapons, but half of them are the good guys, so I doubt we would just randomly be able to take their things. So let's instead have a look at the bad guys and their loot. Now we are going to have a look at the items which will likely appear in the MMO, and for which it is only up to Riot whether they decide to let us obtain these items. Here, above all, we have the legendary sword and shield of Commander Ledros. Ledros played a big role in the story of the Ruined King, but not big enough to prevent us from looting his weapons. So I truly would not be surprised if we were able to get them in the MMO. Especially since Ledros was the Ruined King's most powerful frontline soldier. The sword stands out
You
because
think
it
I
was
know
broken
that?
in half, but it was reforged by unholy magic, with the shield being reforged by crystallized death.
The shield looks
Fun
awesome.
fact, you can find Ledros with his fully 3D modeled weapons
I like
in
his
the Ruined
weapons.
King game. So these will be quite the beauty to behold in the MMO. Next, there has to be some kind of a legendary weapon crafted by Ornn, with one good example already existing in the lore. Remember how in WoW people went on a legendary quest to forge Thunder Fury? Or at least it was epic back in the day? I really want to see us do the same, but with Ornn forging the weapon. In fact, he kinda already did it once. In the lore, Ornn forged himself some tools: a spade, a hammer, and a fork. Later, after a battle with his brother Volibear, he threw all the
It
tools
was after he got mad
besides
because
the
people
hammer
kept
away.
asking him.
According to a legend, the fork landed in the oceans somewhere in the east, where a merking picked it up and he used this mighty trident to rule the oceans. That's how legendary Ornn's weapons are. He literally made himself a fork which was so powerful mortals could use it to rule the world. And who
Hmm.
knows, maybe we will be able to find this very fork in the game.
That would be
So
good.
please,
That would
Riot,
be
we
really good.
need one of Ornn's weapons.
But it's a
And here
trident.
is where we can also mention the Vuju blades. I don't think there is going to be a legendary quest behind these or anything like that. I believe by one way or another we will be able to get a Vuju blade and it will just have some flavor text. But I still wanted to give you a context behind these weapons. You see, the greatest bladesmiths around the world have a way to enhance their work. They would forge a blade, write a poem, and they would bring it to Doran in Ionia. Master Doran would then take these blades and the poems and he would plant them in a hidden place known as Mistfall. After planting them down, he would wait for an entire year. During this time, the local spirits would bless the blades and greatly increase their power.
Huh.
This is how the great
That is
Voodoo
interesting.
blades are forged. And I believe one of these blades with this unique history will be found in the game. And
Mm-hmm.
lastly, before we get into the big ones, there is an idea I had which I really hope Riot is gonna steal. You see, one of the big bad guys we are gonna fight is going to be Sion, a legendary warrior of Noxus who was brought back to fight again using blood magic. The
Okay.
cool thing about him is his metal jaw. The jaw is actually the crown of King Jarvan II, whom
Ooh.
Sion had killed. So when we get to fight Sion, I would love it if he dropped the crown of King Jarvan II and we could wear it as an actual helm.
That
That
would be
would be
good.
such a
Okay.
cool touch to Sion's loot.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the top 3 pieces of loot I want to
Top
show you,
3.
there
Okay.
is something else I want to show you. Something which you won't be able to find anywhere on the internet. And I
Okay.
know it because I was looking for it. And I couldn't find it anywhere. So, I did it myself.
Okay.
I went to the Ruined King, which is a game now available on Steam, which depicts a story that actually happened in the universe of Riot's MMO.
Yeah.
And I went through the game files and I pulled out all the weapon models. Now,
Oh,
in
good.
this game, you have 6 party members, each of which is using a totally different weapon. It's kinda like how weapons work in something like Diablo. And because it is an RPG game, the weapons have different models. And here's the kinds of weapons I am going to show you. Yasuo is using swords, Braum is using shields, Ari is using orbs, Misfortune is using pistols, Pike is using daggers,
Daggers.
and Ilaoi is using idols, which is
Item.
basically oversized trinkets.
Okay.
So, let's start with the swords, shall we? Feel free to pause
Ooh.
at any time to check these out.
Out of these swords, I like this one the best. That one looks so cool. That one, I like that, and I like the red blade on that, but this catches my eye. I guess because green, and I love the color green, but yeah, that's the sword I want, right there.
You can see how a lot of the swords are themed after certain regions.
Yeah.
But some of them are named swords, which we will probably see in the universe. At the bottom, we can see Hextech Gunblade
Oh, I
and
didn't even look at the
Swordblade.
bottom. I
And
like
in the
that
middle,
one
you can
too.
find Mana Moon,
But I like that the
Morvalna,
most.
and Doran's Blade. Next up, we have the shields. Of course,
Okay. The shields. Let me see. I'm not big on shields, but out of these, I like that one and that one. These two.
in Ruined King, the shields are carried by Braum, who is a very big guy carrying a very big shield. So of course all of these are a bit oversized to match him. I also found out that some of them did have recolors, which to be fair is standard for any RPG game these days,
Mhm.
so I included them here too. Anyway, here we can point out the shield of the Poro King, Doran's shield, Randuin's Omen, and as I mentioned before, even here we got a shield themed after the demigod Ornn. Next we have the magical orbs.
Okay. I'm sorry, but this. I want. This is it. That is adorable. It's so cute.
Game calls this
Oh,
kind of
it reminds me of Porter.
a weapon a focus. These are obviously forecasters. And in Ruined King, you can see that a few of them have comical theming. For
Yeah.
example, you can see a ghastly Poro, a Poro snack, and even a D&D dice. Then we have the guns.
Okay, I'm not big on guns. I'm not big. Oh, I like that one though. Oh, that one's cool. Out of all these, I like that. If I had to use a gun, that one's cool.
Guns are themed after regions. For example, I would have never expected it, but this is what a gun from Demacia would look like. But you can also see that the game has 3D models for a void corrupted pistol too. Next we have the daggers. From these
That one. And that one. The red one. These two are the ones I like.
believe only one is a named item which many of you may recognize from League. And that is the Duskblade of Darkstar.
Duskblade.
The rest may be just random daggers from all around Runeterra, but they do look amazing regardless.
They really
Lastly,
do.
we have the idols.
I don't. These are just big giant balls. I like that one. I think that one looks really cool. There's a big giant pufferfish. That's adorable. So either this one or this one's pretty too.
You can think of these as items that show us what offhands could look like in this universe. But if Riot allows us to play as a priest of Buru, then we may straight up use these things as giant hammers to beat evil. Of course, one of these idols is themed after Poros, but I can mention that this one is known as Corin Revek's paperweight, with Corin Revek being Oriana's father, whom people may know from League of Legends. But that's really it for the lootable items from the RPG game Ruined King. Given the fact that Riot recently revealed a new champion with unique weapons, I also wanted to very quickly mention two unique weapon types of this universe. The newest champion in League is using Natophos, which are giant hammers which you can wield as a hybrid between a shield and a fist weapon. But also, the elemental mages of Ishtal might also wield a weapon known as the Omladl, which is essentially a really sharp hula hoop that
I was about to say, it reminds me of a hula hoop.
I forgot to mention one cool thing. In the Ruined King files, I was also able to data mine the armor and the axe of Rasa the Sunderer. But remember that the giant axe is a named item called Night Harvester. So now, let's have a look at the top 3 items from this universe. In my opinion, among the top 3, we absolutely have to mention the Darkin weapons, which are the foundation of iconic weapons in this universe. Remember how after the Ascended slowly turned mad and they slowly turned
But if you touch a Darkin weapon, you get the Darkin inside you, right? So I don't know how they would do that in the game.
Well, after the Darkin started fighting each other for dominance and they slowly started destroying the entire planet, the Celestial Aspects realized that they should probably do something about it. And so, the aspect of Twilight infused a weapon with its power and used it to consume the souls of the Darkin. This weapon became known as the Chalikar. Now, the Chalikar is a giant crossblade that was originally wielded by an Ascended Warrior, and which is now being held by an important character, so we will never see the Chalikar in our hands. However, the aspect of Twilight gave the Chalikar to humans, so that humans could craft new weapons in its image. And these new weapons would be able to capture the remaining Darkin who are running around the world. So, that's what humans did. They forged celestial weapons that absorbed the Darkin. The issue with this is that after being absorbed, the Darkin live inside the weapons. And should any mortal try to hold those weapons, the Darkin could dominate their mind, take over their bodies, and essentially free themselves. Now, in my mind, there are only 2 ways how Riot can allow the players to hold a Darkin weapon. Either we find a Darkin that is so weak that even after we hold them, they can just whisper to us, but it can't really start taking over our body. Maybe just give it a bit of cosmetic corruption on our body. Or we would simply go on a legendary quest to cleanse the weapon of the Darkin's influence. I know, all
That
of
one
this
might
sounds
be
like
it.
a nerdy talk. So let me show you some examples of the already existing Darkin weapons from Legends of Runeterra. We have the Darkin Harpoon, which imprisoned the Darkin known as Ibaros. The
Ibarus.
Darkin Shield, containing the Darkin Joral. The
Doral.
Darkin Lodestone, which I assume is some kind of a trinket which contains Horazi. The Darkin Ballista that imprisoned Naganeka. Fun fact,
Naganeka.
Naganeka probably looks a bit like chicken because in theory it is possible that one of those chickens touched the ballista. And so Naganeka took over the body of the chicken. Then we have the Darkin Harp, which holds the really creepy, maddening Darkin Styradu. Of course, there is also the legendary Scythe of Rast, which is currently being held by Kayn, who is successfully resisting Rast. There is also the Darkin Bow of Varus, the Darkin Bloodletters, which belong to the one who came up with the idea of using blood magic, Zolani. And lastly, we also have the Darkin Halberd that contains Tarosh. We also know that later this year, Legends of Runeterra will reveal even more Darkin. We are still waiting for more information on Aatrox, and I can't wait to learn what the heck that Darkin monstrosity is. Is that a Darkin that took over the body of a Voidborn? Because that sounds badass.
Yeah, that sounds
anyway,
awesome.
I really like the shield, and I will probably play a tank just to get it. Anyway, on to number 2 on this list. When talking about legendary weapons, we have to mention Nightfall. We talked about this one a little bit when we talked about the bosses and villains of this universe. Many of you may know that Mordekaiser has the ability to forge souls into just about anything. Be it bricks that would build his kingdom in his own realm, or weapons. When Mordekaiser was summoned into the realm of the living, instead of being thankful to the cultists who summoned him, he ripped out their souls and forged them into his brutal mace, which he called Nightfall. This is the giant hammer that Mordekaiser is carrying on his shoulder. And with Mordekaiser inevitably being a boss, which we absolutely have to deal with at some point in the future.
It could be loot that he drops.
That's all his lore is about.
Yeah, that would be he could drop his armor too.
This weapon doesn't really have any important lore.
That would be awesome.
So you are not screwing anything up.
People could just continue to fight him over and over again until they get the whole set. That would be so cool.
I mean, at this point, after his entire
story, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people want to look like him.
Count of hundreds of thousands. But even that weapon is not.
I love his sword.
Just as Viego is the Arthas Menethil of this universe, so his legendary blade is the Frostmourne of this universe. But I'm afraid this blade is so legendary, Riot will probably not give it to us.
But it looks awesome.
So let's talk about the Blade of the Ruined King. What originally started as a simple item which you would buy in the in-game shop in League of Legends was eventually turned into the most legendary blade of the League of Legends universe. I mean, it's so legendary that you can buy it in Valorant. This blade, which used to be simply called the Blade of the King, has a name. It is called Sanctity, for when this blade appears, people of Kamavor know they are safe. It has 2 very unique abilities. Sanctity is always stored in its sanctum inside Kamavor's capital, but its wielder can instantly summon it anywhere across the world. That's what you can see Viego do in the cinematics. He is not conjuring it out of thin air. He is simply summoning it. Its second ability is what gives the blade its power, and it's what gives the blade a second name. You see, the Blade of the King is passed down between the kings of Kamavor. The current wielder is Viego, to whom it was passed down by the Lion of Kamavor himself. But every time the blade is passed to a new owner, the blade takes a piece of the would-be king's soul. Then it either kills them on the spot, or the blade deems them worthy and they are allowed to rule Kamavor. Passing this test is not easy, and the blade claimed countless kings before. That's why Sanctity also carries a second name, the Soul Render. Of course, because it is being passed down for generations.
I don't know if that would be a in-game weapon,
of all the previous kings. At least, that's what we believe is the case. What we do know for sure is that when Viego died, he was stabbed by his own sword, which is the blade that contains a piece of his own soul. So because his own blade couldn't claim him, that's one of the many reasons why Viego's death caused a massive explosion of undeath.
Didn't know that.
It is the blade that is responsible for creating the Shadow Isles. And it is the blade that is going to claim us once we inevitably get to fight Viego in the MMO. Of course, you know we have to face Viego.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not one of the people who skipped over the last video and you have all the context, right?
Right.
And of course, it's going to be up to Riot whether they decide whether they want to give us the blade or not.
I don't think they're going
Nightfall, sanctity
It would be
is very
cool, though.
important for the lore. The souls inside the blade could push the story forward, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Viego's own soul in the blade was the key to destroying him. But that's an issue for future Riots to figure out. Anyway, that is it for this video.
That was really
that's
good.
Gonna be it for MMO videos for a while. Many people ask me if I feel like I'm oversaturating the MMO videos. And I'd like to say, no. So far, I am only showing people what actually exists in the universe. Nothing more, nothing less.
This is stuff that could
From this
actually
point
be
on,
part
if I
of the
dive
MMO.
into other topics, I feel like there wouldn't be enough content. And I would have to start going into heavy hypotheticals. And that's not really what I want to do. I want to show people the beauty of Riot's universe. And I want to show people that League's lore is really good. And it's been really good for about 7 years now. So, because this is going to be my last MMO video for a while, in a classic Riot style, I want to leave you with a montage. A supercut of some of the amazing places which we know exist in this universe. It is going to be nothing but official art from this universe.
Okay.
And should the day come, and should we see the MMO come to fruition,
I hope,
in like 8 years, these are gonna be the places I'll go out and look for.
I'll still play it in 8 years, I know that.
Thank you for reacting, and I'll see you in a decade.
Alright, see ya. Here's the montage. Ooh, I don't know what's happening. Okay, Bill's water. Ooh, ooh, ah, ooh. Is that not Thresh, but the other one they were talking about? Ooh, oh, tentacles, box thing, dragon thing, another dragon. Oh, is that that's the Chocho Yodo. Ah, fuzzy. Yay. Alrighty guys, so that was my reaction to Necrit's video. If you want to check out Necrit, I'll leave his link down below in the description. And if you're new, please like, subscribe, and the bell for notification. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good day or night. Bye-bye.